Hello, and welcome to the 2020 North Carolina Bike Walk Transportation Summit. This presentation is called Accessing and Analyzing Public Count Data from North Carolina's Pedestrian and Cyclist Counters. North Carolina is home to one of the most extensive statewide networks of continuous bicycle and pedestrian counting sensors in the United States. The Institute for Transportation Research and Education at North Carolina State University manages this non-motorized volume data program for the North Carolina Department of Transportation. These bicycle and pedestrian counting systems are installed on sidewalks, roadways, and shared use paths across our state. In this presentation, we will learn how you, the public, can access count data using the online dashboards, and how this publicly available resource can be used to understand participation in cycling and walking activity in communities throughout North Carolina. Our presenters are Sarah Searcy and Olivia White. Sarah is the Bicycle and Pedestrian Program Manager at the Institute for Transportation Research and Education, also called ITRE, at NC State University. She is responsible for leading or assisting with the development and management of proposals, projects, and activities related to bicycle and pedestrian transportation. Olivia White works with EcoCounter's Montreal office to help cities and towns across North Carolina integrate the count data into their active transportation projects. And now, I look forward to seeing how we can access this information, and I will turn the presentation over to Olivia and Sarah.
In this presentation, I will provide background on how our bicycle and pedestrian count data are collected, verified, and validated through the North Carolina Non-Motorized Volume Data Program, or NCNMVDP's, quality assurance, quality control, and validation procedures. Olivia White from EcoCounter will then demonstrate how to access preliminary quarterly and official annual count data from the NCNMVDP using online dashboards. Olivia will introduce the EcoVisio software used to access the dashboards, demonstrate how to navigate to the data reports, and show how to view and export the count data. We encourage you to explore this publicly available resource that can be used to understand cycling and walking activity in communities throughout North Carolina. Counting locations included in the NCNMVDP are spread across a variety of facility types to cover the automated detection of pedestrians on sidewalks, bicycles and pedestrians on shared use paths, bicycles and bicycle lanes, bicycles on sidewalks, and bicycles in shared lanes with motor vehicles. Pedestrian detection uses post-mounted passive infrared sensors. Bicycles are detected with inductive loops permanently cut into paved surfaces or buried under crushed gravel. The counting systems are called multi-systems, and they're manufactured by EcoCounter. 48 counting locations representing 141 unique bicycle and pedestrian sensors were installed under Phase 1 and 2 of the NCNMVDP. On the map, the green markers represent counters installed under Phase 1, the red markers represent counters installed under Phase 2, and the black markers are counters on shared use paths that were purchased for a separate NCDOT-funded research project. Additional counters are being onboarded under our new collaborative agency model and are shown as purple markers on the map. Count data are processed based on a standard set of procedures. The data are first transmitted from the counters through the cellular network and accessed through the EcoVisio software. Data are visually reviewed on a weekly basis to identify potential maintenance needs. Invalid data resulting from equipment malfunction are cleaned from the dataset for quarterly data reporting. For annual data reporting, the data are additionally corrected using correction factors that are calculated from video-based validation studies that assess the accuracy of the counting equipment. This flow diagram provides a visual overview of the data process from data transmission through data reporting in EcoVisio. We currently use a semi-automated web-based tool for quality assuring and quality controlling the count data and for applying correction factors before uploading the data into the EcoVisio reporting dashboards. We report our data to our local agency partners and the public on a quarterly and annual basis. Quarterly data are counts that have been verified so that invalid data resulting from known equipment malfunction are removed, but correction factors have not yet been applied to adjust the counts for systematic under or overcounting. These counts have been verified but not adjusted. Quarterly data reports are considered preliminary. Annual data are provided for counters that have been in place for a full program year, December through November, and that have had their accuracy assessed through a validation study. Based on the application of quality control, quality assurance, and validation procedures, invalid data have been removed from the dataset and correction factors have been applied to adjust for undercounting or overcounting that may have occurred at a site. The data report is screenlined to aggregate counts on both sides of the facility by mode. Annual data reports are considered official data reports. Before I hand the presentation over to Olivia to share our latest data reporting dashboards, I would like to introduce our key contacts at ITRI. Craig Baird is our equipment coordinator. He is responsible for maintaining the counters while under NCDOT ownership and is an expert on the technology and commonly encountered issues. Chris Carnes is our validation lead. He coordinates our validation studies that are used to assess the accuracy of the counters after installation and when critical components are repaired or replaced, or when calibration settings are changed. Blythe Carter-Geiger is our data coordinator and oversees our data monitoring, QA/QC, and data reporting. Brendan Kearns, our data processing lead, assists with our weekly data reviews and routine data processing tasks. So without further ado, I'm handing over to Olivia, and she's going to share how to access our public data sets and how to analyze and download data from these dashboards.
Awesome, thanks, Sarah. So I'm Olivia, and I work with EcoCounter up in Montreal, and I work closely with Sarah to make sure that this data that's being collected all over the state of North Carolina is available for anybody to look at if they're interested in that data. So today we're going to be looking at the EcoVisio webpage where that data is available. And the way that we access this webpage is through the North Carolina State University website on the ITRI portal, so the Institute for Transportation Research and Education. So if you just Google the North Carolina Non-Motorized Volume Data Program, this page will pop up. You can navigate to it. There's a bit of a description that Sarah's already gone into that you can read up on. And the way that we access the EcoVisio webpage where the counter data is we just scroll down to the end of the page. There's a part here that's about the quarterly data reports. That's not what we're going to look at today. We're going to be looking at the annual data reports. So we'll scroll down, and we can see the annual data reports from these years. It depends on when the counter is installed, that you'll see the data that's available. But the first thing we do to get into the EcoVisio webpage is just click on this link here, and it will take you to this portal. And I should mention as well, there's nice screenshots that have been put together that will show you exactly what to look for on the page as well if you want to go and do this after the session. So we go to the EcoVisio login, and we're going to use this username and password to get into the North Carolina annual report data. So I'm just going to copy that username. Put that one in, and the password is public. Copy it again. There we go, and we'll log in. And at this point, it will ask you to go into the older version of EcoVisio or the new dashboards, and we are going to click on the new dashboards because that's where all of the data is stored. Once we get to this site page, we have a couple of different options on what we can click on. We are interested in looking at the data that is stored in the sites page, and the sites just refer to the counting sites. So once we're on this counting page, or the counting sites page, there's a couple of different ways that we can find the data that we're looking for. So for example, if we're only looking for data from one particular community, we can look for it here. So we can sort it by the name of the counter. And it's just going to organize it alphabetically here. So we could scroll through this way, or we can filter sites through this tab here. And if I click on this tab, it gives me a list of all of the sites that I can look at and all of the data that I can look at. So there's a couple of different things to note here. If I wanted to look up the site, I could type it in here. So if I wanted to find something, for example, in Charlotte, it will come up and show me all the sites for Charlotte. Some of the other things to note here is you can see for each counting site what the user is associated with it. So these are going to be either cyclist or pedestrian counters, and the user is just noted there with that icon. And like Sarah had mentioned earlier, the data is aggregated. So if there's like facilities where there's a bike lane on either side of the road, the count data is aggregated into a single site here. So there's different ways we can search. We can go through that way, or I can filter sites here and do the same thing. So I'm just going to search for Charlotte again as an example and see all of the counters associated with the city of Charlotte. And we can see there's 18 different sites here that I can choose from. So I'm going to go down here. And there's, this is the one that I'm going to look at today. So it's the Charlotte University City Boulevard, the bicycle counter. And again, that icon is there just to let us know what user is going to be shown on this dashboard. So I click on it, and here we have some disclaimers just about how the data has been validated and verified, and this is what we can expect when we look at the data here. Another thing to note is the public dashboard use. So as a member of the public, you're able to view the data, but we ask that you don't try to change the layout of the page or anything, because this is publicly available and we want to keep it uniform. And as well, the I guess to start going into kind of what the widgets look like, we refer to these individual boxes or graphs as widgets, the location diagram description. So these diagrams have illustrations on them that show kind of what the count site looks like and where the counter is placed on the count site. And they're screenshots that are taken from Google Images to give you a reference point of where the counter is placed. So you have this as a reference point, and if we want to make it a little bigger, we can just click on this icon that will give us a full screen view. So basically what this illustration is saying is the counters on this, this pathway here, and the counter with the pedestrian sensor and the bicycle sensor, it's pointing towards this tree this way. We can see where it's located as well on this Google Map location. So that's another way to figure out where the counter is placed. And we can see it's close to the University of North Carolina. And when we start to look at the data, we can kind of see, oh, there's this is probably, you know, going to be a pathway that's used by students and faculty that are frequenting the university. So scrolling down a little bit more on the dashboard, we have the annual data that is shown here for the whole period. So whenever we look at a dashboard, we can see the time period that is being shown is just illustrated right underneath the title of the dashboard. So going back to 2017, there's been data collected here for the Charlotte University location. And if you are interested in this particular widget and you want to know a little bit more about it, I suggest you click on the full screen option, and it allows you to go in and see the data a little more easily. If you hover over some of these points, you can see the exact date and the total number of bicycles that had been counted on those dates. We can see the usership go up a little bit over time here. And if we are interested in doing something like downloading this file, So we want to share this particular site with a colleague or a stakeholder or someone else who's interested in the data. All we have to do is click on this download button. There's a couple of different ways we can download it. So if I just want to download it as an image file and just send that in an email, that's what we'll click on, and then this will show up. It's not a dynamic PNG file like we have in the dashboard where we can hover over and it'll show you the different totals. It's just going to be more of a static image. But again, it's easy to share this if that's all you want to do is just show a quick snapshot of the data. So we're going to exit out of the full screen view. There are other, so this is just showing the daily totals for this particular site for the bicycles. If we want more, like a smaller grain of the data, if we go down to here, we can go to the tabular data format. And this is showing the hourly data by day. So again, if we wanted to do a more detailed analysis of this data, we would want to look at the hourly data, and we could also download this particular type of data as well. I'll show this as an example with an Excel file or a CSV file. So again, if you would like to download this, you'll just click here. It'll give you these two different options. We'll go with Excel for now. And it's just going to show you right here what the data looks like. And we'll just wait for that to open up. So this is what we can see with the Excel file. And going down to the other widgets we have here, there's an interesting widget. If you just want to look at kind of what the average use is, I should mention these are more based on if you'd like to do your own analysis of the data or have a long-term view of what the data looks like. For more of an like an average overview of what this site looks like and how many people are frequenting this site, it's better to look at the average volume by day widget. And this will show you the, I'm just gonna make this full screen so it's easier to see. This is showing you the average number of people biking by on each day of the week. And this is an interesting widget in a lot of different ways because we can see some pretty clear patterns about how this pathway is used by cyclists. So on the weekdays, Monday through Friday, we can see it's quite well used throughout the day, and it's used for, looks like people commuting in the morning, maybe having a little lunchtime rush as well, and then coming home in the afternoon, and the counts are kind of trickling off towards the end of the day. And then on Saturday and Sunday, so the pink and the yellow lines, we can see there's far less use on the weekend. So again, probably supporting that idea that there's people that are using this as a pathway to go to and from the university as a workplace or where they're going to school during the weekdays and less so on the weekend. So these are just some of the kind of interesting things you can see by looking at the average volume of the data as opposed to the longer term. And again, you can do the same thing. You can download all these widgets if you think this is interesting and you want to show it off to somebody. This is just same kind of information in a different type of chart, so the average volume by day of week. And again, we can see that illustrated that it's more highly used during the weekdays and less so during the weekends. And then if we want to look at what does the data look like over a year, we have, this is a counter that's been in place for quite a few years, so 2017, 2018, and 2019 data that we have available for it. And we can see it's pretty consistent in terms of when this pathway is most used. It looks like it's more used in the fall months. So again, it's right by the university. There's going to be more students and faculty frequenting the university in the fall months as opposed to in the summer when things are a little bit quieter. And we can see there's higher counts for cyclists there as well. And then as well, we'll also be able to look at just the average daily volume here. All of these widgets that are present on this particular dashboard are present for all of the counting sites. So we're going to go and have a look at another counting site. We just click on this expand button, and we'll just have a look at the pedestrian site right next to it. So if we were to go in real life and visit this site, we would find this counter is one single unit. So it's split up here as bicycles and pedestrians, but in real life, it's the same site, and we can see that through the location diagram photo. So now we're looking at the pedestrian data for the same site. And again, it's located in the same place, it's the same counter. We have different data here. It's more frequented by pedestrians. We can see the counts are a bit higher here. And again, we have the tabular data that shows us the by hour amount that we have. And it's similar in terms of what we're looking at on the average volume by day and what time of day people are using it. But again, we have a higher level of pedestrian use here with the daily average. And it looks like as well, we can see there's a different level of frequency of people using the site as a pedestrian as opposed to a cyclist when we look at the comparison throughout the year. So that's kind of how we can view the data, and we can share it with other people that are interested in viewing the count data. There's different things we can do. There's different ways we can share it, and I encourage you to reach out. There's a little information icon, contact us. If you ever have any issues with downloading the data or finding the data that you need or the grain of the data that you need, you are always welcome to reach out and email me or just go through this contact us portal on here and let us know, hey, I'm looking for data at this particular site, and we'll help you try to get access to whichever data that you're looking for. For now, I'm going to hand it back to Sarah.
We encourage you to take the time to visit the official project webpage for the NCNMBDP. It can be visited at go.ncsu.edu/NMBDP. And on this webpage, as Olivia shared, you'll have access to our quarterly data reports and our annual data reports. We encourage you to explore these. Again, if you have any questions as you navigate, feel free to reach out to Olivia or to reach out to me, and we'll be happy to answer any of your questions. We're just thrilled that we're able to share information about these data and that folks will be aware and make use of them. Thank you so much.